let's open up the doors. Hello, everybody. I love seeing a waiting room full of people, and we do apologize for a few minutes getting started here. But I'm excited to have you all here because I absolutely love this day of the month. And yes, it changes all the time. But when you're dealing with people that are making an impact and out and meeting with people and sharing valuable information that's going to help them on their health journey, we just have to work our schedule around their schedule so that we can come together and gain information. And I love the fact that this program is recorded. So John T is very good about getting the recordings up. This should be up by end of day Monday on criticalhealthnews.com. But that's where we host all of our shows, have them available for replay. But this program itself, this is a safe place for you to come, invite your friends, invite your family, invite clients, future clients, so that they too can get information that's not necessarily coming from you, but coming from a third party that has a lot of experience when it comes to the subjects that we talk about in this program, Q&A with Pharmacist Ben and Becca. And again, there's no solicitation, there's no self-promotion. So if you're on live with us and you have your chat open, please make sure that your name is your name. It does not include any type of contact information for yourself. And the questions and comments that you put into the chat, make sure that they are directed at the topics that we are talking about today, or specific questions, but not something that is self-promoting yourself. We want to keep this a safe place. All right. My co-hosts that I have with me, Heather Bowen, Ruth Ellen Sanchez, Dr. Judy Reynolds, they are going to be putting valuable information into the chat. So if you're on with us, make sure you have your chat open so that you can see the information that they share in the chat. And we're going to be having some topic specific information shared first. And then at the end, if you have questions that you would like to ask Pharmacist Ben, make sure that you find that raise hand option that is in the Zoom menu so that you can raise your virtual hand, and then I will call upon you in order that they are or have been received. All right. So the content of this program is to provide educational information only on the importance of nutrition and supplementation. And this is based on the findings of Dr. Joel Wallach, and not just his findings, but when you implement something like what he has found and the body responds positively to it, no matter what the stage is, it only makes sense. And our food supplies around the world are empty and void of the nutrition that the body needs, not just to survive, but actually thrive. When you think about it, just eating a healthy diet, look how many people are still sick and having to take lots of pharmaceuticals. We want to thrive. And when we thrive, it doesn't depend on the dependency of a chemical in order to do that. So we look at more natural, healthier options when it comes to health. Now, in this program, we are going to be sharing some nutritional options, and we want to encourage you, if you are a guest on this program, get back with the person that invited you. They took the time to share this program with you. So get back with them, thank them for sharing it with you, and ask them how they place their orders to get the products. We want to make sure that you go through them. This is an incredible business. It's a referral business. So when you go to the corner store or the big chains, do you get a thank you check for shopping with them? Some credit cards, they do give you cash back, but this does even more and is much better because not only are you sharing valuable information with somebody, you're getting a thank you check for doing that, but you're making a positive impact. on your health, your family's health, your friends' health, the community. And as we do this, this is the only way that we're going to be able to work on creating healthier health journeys for everyone that comes in contact with this information. So don't be afraid to share. And if you have ever thought about having an extra stream of income and you love dealing with people, you have an interest in health, you want to be part of the solution, again, get back with the person that shared this program with you. Now, if you're one of our newsletter subscribers and that's how you found us, reply back to that newsletter and say, hey, I would like some more information about the business opportunity, and myself or one of our holistic health coaches will get back with you and make sure that you get the information you need to make an educated decision. So with all of that being said, and I'm almost said nonsense, but it's not nonsense. It is something that we all can just think about. And sometimes as we plant seeds, those seeds get watered, they grow and create something absolutely beautiful. And that includes the formation and the gathering of this program, Q&A with Pharmacist Ben and Becca. So welcome everybody. My name is Becca Dukes, and I am honored to be able to host the amazing, and I call him my friend. I've met him. He is an incredible person, not just his knowledge and his brain, but his personality and his just his whole demeanor is fabulous. So Ben, with all that being said, welcome to our show.
I need to lower expectations.
Lower expectations, and then you over deliver, right?
Exactly. That's how it's done. And you know what? Before I start, I think everybody should know that you, Becca Dukes, have built yourself an incredible business. And in the world of longevity, you're one of the rare ones that just took the ball and ran with it. And in 4 or 5 years, how long has it been? 5 years, 6 years?
You know, I started 7 years ago, but it's just been in the last 4 years that I've gotten serious and ran.
Well, what did you do? If you could just, before I start, can you tell folks one thing? I know you did a lot of things, but what's one thing you did that made your business grow as much as it did and made you such a big player in terms of the distributors in longevity, such an important distributor in longevity, and such a financially successful in a lot of other ways distributor in longevity? What's one thing that you can tell?
I got out of my own way.
Meaning,
you know, I had all these things that I was still working on. I had incredible improvements in my health, but I still had these few things that I kept thinking, well, I can't make a business because they're going to look at me and say, well, if she's, you know, doing this business, then why does she still have this going on? And not knowing that I'd already lost 100 pounds, but not to my perfect weight, you know, those type of things. But it's, and one of my business names is Progress Over Perfection. And making that progress, getting out of my own way, getting out of my own head and saying, no, it's not about me. It's about helping others.
That's great. It's not about us. It's about helping others. Sometimes we forget that focus. We focus on how much we're making, how many sales we're doing, how many points we're getting, and all of that. And we forget that even if we're not doing very well that way, if we can help people, then we're doing our work and we're making a positive difference in the world. And then eventually we'll get taken care of. But the most important thing, I think you're right, is to focus on the positive impact we can have on people's lives with the longevity products, as well as the longevity information that we share every month and that we share really every day.
Well, and I want to add, I mean, it is so rewarding to get that, you know, reach out in a text, and this happened yesterday. Reached out in a text, say, hey, just wanted to check to see how you're doing. And I got an immediate phone call. And this young man said, I can't express how well I'm doing
Wow.
through a text.
Wow. That's awesome.
And he was going on and on. He said, I have been fighting for 2 years to overcome some of these things that I've been dealing with. And he says, and I've made some positive changes. But what I've experienced in the last 2 weeks, he said, is unbelievable.
That's what it's all about, Rebecca. It's all about. Nice job. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so he's a distributor and he's ready to go big. I'm real excited. Heather is actually the one that put up the social media account that he found. And then I worked with her and we got him on some products. And I'm super excited because folks don't think that you have to be big time influencer to find and attract influencers. This young man is going to explode
Nice.
as being an actor and a recording artist. In fact, Friday, if everything works out well, we're going to have him on and give a little testimonial on Ask Doc Live.
Oh, very good. Very good.
So,
This Friday?
I'm sorry?
This Friday.
This Friday.
I'll be on.
This Friday. So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, let's get started here with our filling up your little message here.
My little message. I give him 3 options to choose from, and he's like, well, let's do them all.
We can talk about all 3 of them, but the third one is actually kind of long, so maybe we'll just introduce it. We'll talk about that on our next monthly Zoom. So the first thing you asked about was the healthiest diets, and you wrote carnivore, paleo, vegetarian, and vegan. You missed one, and you probably missed a lot of them, but there's one that really stands out to me. Are those the 4 that you want to talk about?
Well, no, those are just examples of what I would like to talk about.
Diets to talk about. There's so many different ways to eat. Most important thing to understand about diets is we are human beings. Well, 2 most important things. Human beings are omnivores. That is, we're designed to eat everything. There's certain animals that eat just fruit. There's certain animals that eat just grass. There's certain animals that eat just meat. We are designed to eat everything. And that's because growing up on the African savannah, there wasn't a lot of food. So our ancestors who survived to have us as descendants were the ancestors who figured out how to extract energy, which is ultimately what eating is all about, to extract energy from multiple food sources, from all different ways of getting food. And so we're said to be omnivores, omni meaning everything, vor meaning eating, as opposed to carnivores who eat meat, frugivores who eat fruit. Where's other ones here? Herbivores, which eat plants. And believe it or not, there are actually insectivores that only eat insects. So there are various ways that the animal world eats. We are supposed to eat everything. Now, in terms of diets, that's the first point I want to make about diets. But in terms of the various diets, the most important diet is the eat less diet. In other words, eating as little as possible. Eating represents work. Biochemical work. Eating costs nutritional resources. Now, theoretically, the foods you eat are supposed to replace those nutritional resources, and you're supposed to get more nutrition from your food than the nutrients expended in processing that food. Those days are gone. Most of the foods we eat today cost us nutrition, and this is one of the hidden prices we pay for the amount of food that we're eating and the overeating that we do. So the most important kind of diet is the eat less diet, eating as little food as possible. And that being said, it's very difficult to do. Why? Because we don't eat for food, or we don't eat for nutrition. We eat for satisfaction. In fact, only human beings and maybe some domesticated animals like cats and dogs eat when they're not hungry. Eat when it's not necessary to have food. And one of the most important reasons for this, well, it's a couple reasons, but one of the most important reasons for this is because eating activates the relaxation nervous system. You have 2 nervous systems. We talked about this before. You have the stress nervous system and you got the relaxation nervous system. The stress nervous system is the nervous system that raises your blood pressure and lowers your immunity and causes your bones to deteriorate and makes you get wrinkles and causes heart disease and really all the miseries of life, constipation and infertility and fight or flight, anxiety, insomnia, hot flashes. If you want to know what activated sympathetic nervous system feels like, ask a menopausal woman. And all of the signs of menopause that women have know to hate are really signs of an activated emergency nervous system. It's a very important clue for women who are going through menopausal symptoms. The other nervous system is your relaxation nervous system. It's your calming nervous system. It's the nervous system that's associated with digestion. It's a nervous system associated with sleep. It's a nervous system associated with fertility and libido and creativity. It's a nervous system that's associated with a strong, healthy heart and a strong immune system and beautiful, glowing, wrinkle-free skin and strong bones and strong muscles. Where do you think you want to spend most of your time? Obviously, in the relaxation nervous system called the parasympathetic nervous system. We are designed, when we're under stress, we're under activation of the sympathetic nervous system, to do anything we could do to get out of that kind of sensation, because it doesn't feel good. From a biological perspective, or an evolutionary biological perspective, we're only supposed to be in sympathetic activation quickly. And then most of the time she's spent in relaxation, the relaxation nervous system, relaxation nervous system activation, the parasympathetic nervous system should be activated most of the time. However, we have created a culture where we have fake emergencies. In fact, many of us are living with fake or false or faux emergencies from the time we wake up in the morning to the time we go to bed at night. And these fake or faux emergencies do not feel good. Ask a menopausal woman what a fake, false or faux emergency feels like. It feels awful. And we'll do anything we could do to get out of that fake, false emergency state. But we don't know what's happening. So we don't consciously get out of that fake state, but we do things unconsciously that will get us out of that fake state. One of the things we do unconsciously to get out of that fake state is we'll drink alcohol. We don't realize we're drinking alcohol because we're constantly in a sympathetic activation state, and the alcohol relaxes the body temporarily. Drugs do the same thing. But probably the most important way we get out of a sympathetic nervous system state, this unpleasant anxiety, insomnia, high blood pressure, low immunity, all the crappy things, all the terrible things associated with this hyperactive sympathetic nervous system state. The easiest, most unconscious, most socially accepted way that we get out of that sympathetic nervous system state is we eat. That's what overeating is about. Overeating is about getting out of this stress nervous system state. I have a friend who has insomnia. She can't sleep. And when she can't sleep in the middle of the night, she'll go up to the kitchen and she'll get some food and she'll fall asleep. You may notice that you feel tired after you eat food. That's activation of the parasympathetic nervous system. We stress eat when we're under stress. People eat when they're depressed. And the problem with this activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, or eating to get activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, is because we have so much stress, we eat way more than we need to eat. And of all the foods that we eat way more than we need to, most of those choices are what we call hyper palatable choices. Though in science, that means just super delicious choices. And as it turns out, the most super delicious choices are choices that have sugar, fat, and salt. And if you want to make $1 million and you don't have a conscience, you don't care about ethics, figure out a food that has a combination of salt and sugar and fat and open up a store on the local corner or have a little kiosk on the local corner and sell that food that has a combination of sugar, salt, and fat. They'll be lining up around the block to get that food because we can't get enough of that sugar, salt, and fat, that hyper palatable food, because of biochemical changes that occur after we eat that food that relax us, that get us out of that sympathetic nervous system state. So the best diet is going to be a diet that takes into account eating for emotional reasons or eating for mental reasons rather than eating for strictly nutritional reasons. I lost 50 pounds a few years ago, and I did it by just paying attention to when I was really hungry. And I noticed most of the time that I wanted to eat, I wasn't even hungry. There's the food that we want, there's the eating that we eat because we have to, and there's the eating that we eat because we want to. And if you're looking at the menu at the store or at the restaurant, or you're looking at the menu board at the sandwich shop and you're looking at it and you're saying, oh, I'm not sure what I really want to eat. No, I don't want any. I had that yesterday, or I'm tired. You're not hungry. If you're hungry, you're not going to be making those kinds of thoughts aren't going to be going through your head if you're hungry. And I'm not saying, it's very important when you talk about food with somebody, and when I talk about food with you guys, or when you talk about food with your customers, your clients, your friends, your family, that you don't do food shaming, because we're very sensitive about food, because we all intuitively know that we're not doing it right, especially if we have obesity issues or blood sugar issues or digestive health issues, skin issues. If we have any health issues that are associated with how we eat, we know. We don't need somebody to tell us. So you got to be really, really careful about doing fat shaming, food shaming, eating behavior shaming. I can't believe you're going to eat that. You know, that kind of thing. You got to be really careful about that, because most people know. That being said, there are kind and gentle ways to do it. And the most important thing is to have people understand the relationship between the cost of eating and the relationship between eating and their health challenges, number one, and the eating behavior that they're doing unconsciously and unnecessarily. Other than that, you got to be really, really careful when it comes to food, talking to people about food. That being said, we're going to talk about diets. So the most important diet is the low food diet. I didn't say low calorie diet, it's a low food diet. And there's a whole nother reason for that comes to calories that we can talk about on our next Zoom meeting. We talk about sugar. So let's talk about the different kinds of diets. The first one that comes to mind, I'm just going to go by the ones that I think of, and Rebecca or anybody else out there, if you think of one that I didn't mention, I'm happy to address it. The most common one I hear about these days is the carnivore diet. The carnivore diet is an all animal food diet. So the carnivore diet, when people get on the carnivore diet, a lot of times they'll notice they lose weight and they get all excited, or they notice a lot of their health problems are reduced, and they get all excited and they assume that the carnivore diet is the reason for their improved health. And in a way it is, but it's more like when you're on the carnivore diet, you're not eating foods that are causing problems. So it's not so much the foods you are eating on the carnivore diet that gives it its benefits. It's the foods that you're not eating on the carnivore diet that gives it its benefits. That being said, meat is definitely a valuable food. However, that's theoretical. When everybody tells you about how the promoters of the carnivore diet tell you about how human beings are meat eaters, we grew up eating meat, meat is very valuable food, they're only partially right. Because the meat they're talking about, when they talk about how we're supposed to be eating meat as animals, as human animals, we're supposed to be eating meat, our brains grew from eating meat, and meat was a very important part of the diet in the African savannah as we were growing up from an evolutionary standpoint, even from a Neanderthal prehistorical standpoint, we grew up eating meat, all that's true. But what they're missing is that was a different kind of meat than we eat today. Back then, when you were eating meat, you were hunting it. And that meat was grass-fed, and that meat wasn't getting hormones and wasn't getting antibiotics and didn't have all the fear chemicals that are associated with modern factory farming of meat. I don't know if anybody ever seen factory farming of chickens or factory farming of cows. It's horrific. The meat that we ate from a prehistoric or an evolutionary standpoint wasn't that kind of meat. What's more, when you hunted meat, it was very, very hard work. You were expending calories and it wasn't readily available. So you weren't eating lots of meat. And when you were eating the meat, you were eating the whole meat. You weren't just eating the muscle meat, you were eating the organ meat. So you're eating the whole animal. Today, nobody has to hunt a Big Mac. Nobody's stalking a quarter pounder with cheese. No, the way we eat meat is completely different. The meat that we get at the supermarket is not the same meat that our caveman and prehistoric and African savanna ancestors were eating. So the carnivore diet promoters completely gloss over that fact, that the meat and the dairy and the fish that we eat today is of a completely different nature than the meat and the fish and the dairy that we ate from an evolutionary perspective. That's point number one, and that's a major flaw in the carnivore diet. Another major flaw in the carnivore diet is there are certain nutrients that are not found in meat that you need to have. One in particular is fiber. Fiber is only found in plant foods. It's not found in animal foods. And the need for fiber is not only important from a mechanical point of view. In other words, fiber's got mechanical benefits. It helps sweep out toxins from the body, sweep out excess estrogens from the body. It also helps swell to slow down the release of nutrients so they can be absorbed more slowly. It has multiple mechanical benefits, but it also has biochemical benefits. So fiber gets digested by bacteria in the colon to produce a whole slew of wonderful molecules that are important for mood, for sleep, for immune health, for digestive health and intestinal health. And you're not going to be getting those if you're not eating fiber. Fiber acts as a prebiotic to support the health of probiotics, bacteria in the intestine, so they can produce, probiotics, as intestinal bacteria, so they can produce postbiotics. You're not going to get any postbiotics. You're not going to be supporting your probiotics, and you're not going to get any prebiotics if you're on a carnivore diet. Number three, there are vitamins, specifically vitamin C, that you're not going to get from a carnivore diet, because vitamin C is only found, with some rare exceptions, is only found in vegetable foods and plant foods. There's small amounts of vitamin C perhaps in eggs, and there may be some vitamin C in some of the organs if you're eating organ meat, but you're not going to get significant quantities if you're on the carnivore diet. And then fourth of all, there's a class of nutrients that we've only really recognized them as nutrients for maybe the last 60 or 70 years, because they're only used in the body in very, very tiny concentrations that are only found in foods in very, very, very tiny concentrations. And these are substances called phytonutrients. Phytonutrients are plant nutrients that function as adaptogens. And these plant nutrient adaptogens help like the name sounds, they help our body and specifically our cells adapt to things. They're stress management molecules. And if you're on the carnivore diet, you might be getting a little bit of them, but you're certainly not going to get the mother load of them, which is plant material, hence the term phytonutrients. It's true that animals eat the plants, they'll have some phytonutrients in them, but they're not going to have the super high concentrations of phytonutrients. You'll miss the super high concentrations of phytonutrients, you'll miss the vitamin C, you'll miss the fiber, and you'll find yourself ingesting a lot of toxic food in terms of hormones, in terms of antibiotics, in terms of fear and death chemicals that are produced by animals, and also in terms of the different balances in the biochemicals of the body based on the foods that we feed our food animals. Our livestock, our food animals don't eat the same diets that, and even our fish don't eat the same diets that their wild cousins eat. Our farm animals and our farm fish even eat grains, and that throws off their biochemistry. So we're eating a different biochemical spectrum of substances when we eat a farmed animal, whether it's a farmed fish or a farmed cow or farmed livestock, or even if it's dairy. So there's a whole slew of problems associated with the carnivore diet, although there are, because you're not, as I said earlier, because you're not getting a lot of the problematic ingredients that are found in non-carnivore foods, and there are a ton of those. A lot of people notice that they feel better and they lose weight when they're on the carnivore diet. And so for some people, when they start, if they've been on a lousy diet for a long time, when they start the carnivore diet, they'll get some benefits, and that's a good thing. But in the long term, it's probably not a great way to eat. Then there's the vegetarian diet, and we'll say the vegan diet, because that's like an extreme form of vegetarian. Most of you guys know this, but a vegan is somebody who doesn't eat any eggs or honey or anything that's not necessarily meat or dairy or fish. And there's pescatarians also, by the way, who will eat just fish. But let's just go vegan. And those are people that don't do anything that's remotely associated with an animal. And I can kind of relate to that, because I don't like eating Bambi either. And I don't want to see the fish's head or the shrimp's head when I'm eating it. You know, I don't want to know that I'm eating a living animal. And that's just, it's not really, doesn't feel right to eat living animals. So I understand their perspective. And also, you don't want to be eating a lot of animal protein or animal meat, because eating a lot of animal protein, animal meat is the hardest food to digest. It's the hardest food to process. And it creates the most dramatic and profound changes in the biochemistry of the intestine. So you don't really want to be eating a lot of meat. And so I can understand vegans' perspective. That being said, there's a lot of nutrients that are found in animal foods that are not found in plant foods, just like the other way around. Just like there's a lot of there's some, not a lot, but there's some nutrients, key nutrients that are not found in vegetables that are found in meat. The other way around is they're both true. So you need them both. The nutrients that are not found in vegetarian foods that vegans are going to miss out on are an amino acid called taurine, Taurine. Taurine is a very important building protein. There are two very important vitamins. I'm sorry, not a building protein. It's a very important electrical amino acid, not protein. It's a very important electrical amino acid. Taurine is important for eye health. Taurine is important for heart health. In fact, you may have seen taurine in Red Bull, and it's put in Red Bull so they can put lots of caffeine in Red Bulls without taxing out your heart. Taurine has heart cardioprotective benefits. And taurine is also important for skin and skin moisturization. If you have a cat, by the way, and you're not feeding your cat meat, cats have a problem with taurine. You might want to supplement your vegetarian or vegan cat with a little bit of taurine because taurine is only found in animal foods. Same with vegetarians and vegans, they may want to supplement with some taurine, but taurine is not going to be found in a vegan diet. You're also not going to find high concentration of what are called branched chain amino acids unless you're eating beans, which are a vegan's favorite choice, because beans contain high protein. Beans are almost like a fake type of meat. And in fact, a lot of fake meats are made with beans. A lot of vegetarian fake meats are made with beans as the base because beans contain a protein profile and an amino acid profile that's close to meat. But the concentration of amino acids, of building amino acids in meat, is much denser in carnivore foods and meat foods than they are in beans and vegetarian type foods. Also, beans, which are the main building protein of a vegan diet, are a very high source of problematic molecules, which I'll talk about in a second, that plants make, especially beans and seeds and grains make, and nuts make, that are very hard on the body. I'll talk about that here in a second. And if you're getting your protein from beans, if you're on a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet, you're getting your protein from beans, you may run a risk of increased amounts of these components. They're called lectins, Lectins. I'll talk about those in a second. And then also, if you're on a vegan diet or vegetarian diet, you're going to be missing two very important hormones that act like vitamins that act like hormones. We call them vitamins, but really they're hormones, and that's vitamin A and vitamin D. Both vitamin A and vitamin D are only found in animal foods, with some slight exceptions. There is a form of vitamin A called beta carotene, which is not exactly vitamin A, but for some people, not everybody, but some people can convert that vitamin A into beta carotene into vitamin A. But it's kind of a chance you're taking because not everybody can do that. And then there's vitamin D, which comes from the sun, and that's really the best way to get our vitamin D. But there's no vitamin D contained in vegan or vegetarian foods, with one exception. And this is a very important exception for vegans. There's a type of food that is a cross between an animal and a vegetable. Rebecca knows. It's a cross between an animal and a vegetable, and that is a mushroom or a fungus, really. Mushrooms are the fruiting bodies of fungus, they're the fruit of a fungus. And mushrooms are an ideal choice for a vegan to be able to get nutrients that are only found in animal foods, because there is vitamin D and there is vitamin A and there is fiber, and a lot of the foods, a lot of the nutrients that you can't get in, and polysaccharides also, a lot of the foods that you can't get in one diet, if you're on the carnivore diet, you can't get that you're missing from vegetables, or if you're in the vegan diet that you're going to miss from meats. You can kind of combine those and get some of them by using mushrooms. And again, mushrooms are also used like fake meat, the same way beans are. Now, I touched on this a little bit, but this is really important. And this is something that we're starting to know more, we're starting to respect more and more in the mainstream, although medicine and certainly in pharmacy school, we learned about these molecules that are found in plants that are plant defensive molecules. And these are molecules that are like chemical weaponry for the plant. Plants, like any other living thing, don't want to be eaten. Animals don't want to be eaten, of course. We don't want to be eaten. Nothing that's alive wants to be eaten, and that includes the plant world. So plants have created a chemical defense system to punish the eaters or the would-be eaters of the plants. And they call them chemical defense molecules, or lectins, Lectins. And there are certain foods that are very high in lectins. And these lectin-containing foods can wreak havoc on the immune system. In fact, there are many autoimmune diseases and autoimmune symptoms that are caused by these lectins. The most classic example of a lectin is one we talk about in longevity all the time. Dr. Wallach doesn't go probably half an hour in a talk without mentioning this prime lectin, and that's, of course, gluten. And gluten is a classic example of a plant defensive molecule that the plant, the grain, makes that will punish the eater of the grain. Grains are a type of seed, and seeds are nature's bounty. Grains and seeds and nuts and beans all represent a potential life in their native form. You take a bean, or you take a seed, you put water on it, you put it in dirt, hit it with a little sun, boom, you get life. So the seed is all of life, and that seed is highly protected. So nature has packed lectins into the seeds. It is especially protective of its seeds, which means seeds contain the highest concentrations of lectins of any foods. The highest concentrations also of anti-nutrients, that's chemicals or molecules that attract or trap nutrients. One of those is called phytic acid or phytates. You probably heard of that. That's another molecule that's found in seeds that acts as an anti-nutrient or protective mechanism. So lectins in beans, nuts, seeds, and grains are very, very problematic. It's not just gluten. Don't ever say, oh, I'm eating gluten-free, but I still have arthritis, because it's not just gluten. It's almost like nobody knew about gluten until 20 years ago. I mean, in pharmacy school, and we knew about it, and doctors knew about it, but in the mainstream, nobody knew about it. And then all of a sudden, now everybody knows about gluten. So everybody's focusing on gluten, but it's like we're going from one extreme to another. Gluten is definitely a problem, but there are a lot of other molecules, lectins, plant defensive molecules that are found in vegan foods and vegetarian foods. And I'm in the skin business, as some of you guys know, and I can't tell you the amount of times I see people who have terrible skin problems, acne, that are classic lectin issues, and lectins wreak havoc specifically on the skin. And I look at them and I say, I can tell it's a food problem. And they say, oh no, I'm a vegan. Oh no, I just eat vegetables. And they don't realize that being a vegan, because the idea, the sort of implicit idea in veganism is that's the best way to eat. And if you're eating meat, you're a savage. And if you're eating vegan, you're a highly evolved person. And vegan foods are friendly and kind and natural, and there's no problems with them. There's this kind of intuitive sense that we have about that. That's wrong. There are problematic molecules in veganism that can cause all kinds of problems, all kinds of issues with joints, with the immune system, with autoimmune diseases, and especially on the skin. And if you ever see somebody who has acne, that's the most dramatic one. Eczema, psoriasis, they can all be caused by these lectins, but acne is the most dramatic one across the middle of the face, cheeks here, and all the way around here. That's a classic sign of a food condition, and something as simple as removing beans from the diet or grains from the diet can completely clear up the skin because of those lectins. So veganism, carnivores don't have this problem. Carnivores think other people who aren't eating, people who do the carnivore diet people think who aren't eating the carnivore diet or aren't enjoying the carnivore diet are somehow missing the boat. But vegans think people who aren't doing the vegan diet are cavemen or savages. And there's a lot of self-righteousness in the vegan world, and in the kind of like holier than thouism in the vegan world. Not everybody, of course, but there is some of that. And vegans should recognize that plants are not kind and gentle and benign either. There's a lot of problems associated with plant-based diets and plant foods. I should throw this out real quick. I said mushrooms are a cross between animal and vegetable. There's another food source that's not quite that way, but still has a lot of the building molecules and a lot of the nutrients that are found only in vegetables, but isn't a vegetable, and that's algae. And algae and seaweed is a complex form of algae, are also a really powerful food that vegans especially should be taking advantage of. And then, what was the other diet? Carnivore, vegan. There was another one.
Keto.
Oh, keto. But there is
a question about the carnivore diet, Pharmacist Ben.
Class. let me see here. Let me see here.
And the question about the carnivore diet is how
Paleo. I want
is
paleo.
for for those that are diabetic?
Say
Because I
again.
know too much protein converts to sugar.
Very, very good. Not a lot of people recognize that, and that is an issue. Protein will get converted very readily into sugar. The body is super well equipped to turn protein into sugar. And this is a problem with a lot of people. When they start eating a lot of protein, they don't lose weight, and they can't figure out why they're not losing weight, and they're missing the point. They're missing the biochemical point that protein gets converted into sugar, which ultimately will get converted into fat. So yes, diabetics have to be a little bit careful of the carnivore diet. But I want to talk about the paleo diet because that's kind of like the carnivore diet. But the paleo diet is not just animal protein. The paleo diet adds in vegetables. It's basically a paleo. The carnivore diet is basically the paleo diet without a lot of vegetables. Paleo includes fruits and includes vegetables, and they emphasize fat a lot in paleo. Paleo's got kind of out of style. Paleo was really big in the 90s. A guy named Dr. Robert Atkins. I'm sure some of you know who Dr. Robert Atkins is. I got to meet Dr. Robert Atkins back in the 90s, and I got to spend some time with him. And I got really interested in paleo. And his point was, much like with the carnivore diet, how it's not so much what you're getting from the carnivore diet as what you're not getting from the carnivore diet that gives it a lot of its benefits. Paleo is the same way. And back in the 90s, people didn't really understand about the problematic nature of carbohydrates. And the paleo diet is really a low carbohydrate, high fat, high protein diet. And this was the brainchild of Dr. Robert Atkins. And Dr. Robert Atkins was practicing in New York City in the 70s, in the 60s, in the 70s, and the 80s. And he was sort of a renegade because nobody's really talking about sugar back then and carbohydrates. But he noticed that when he took his patients off of high carbohydrates, especially sugar, their health would improve dramatically, especially their skin. I got to talk to him quite a bit about improving skin using the paleo diet, and I kind of got into the paleo diet. But what Dr. Robert Atkins and the paleo people miss is the most important point about the keto diet or about any diet in general. And so that's where we come into the ketogenic diet. Paleo diet is like the carnivore diet with fruits and vegetables, or with mostly vegetables with small amounts of fruits and no sugar. I might add at this point that Dr. Atkins, who was the promoter of the paleo diet, the promoter of the high fat, high protein, low carbohydrate diet, weighed about 300 pounds, and he looked like a side of beef, just as an aside. So whether or not the paleo diet, the paleo diet, as it turned out, is not the best diet, but it did give people a lot of benefits because it got them off the sugar. And that is a real problem. And we'll talk about that at the end here today. And then definitely we'll talk about that in our next Zoom meeting, because sugar is really the bad guy in this story. So back to the keto diet, which I think is the perfect way to eat. It is the perfect way to eat. I'll tell you why. First of all, well, let's talk about the keto diet, what the ketogenic diet is. The ketogenic diet is a high fat, low carb, moderate, whatever that means, I'll talk about that here in a sec, protein diet. But, and there's a big but here, it's a high percentage fat diet, high percentage or low percentage carb diet, moderate percentage protein diet. What does that mean? It means the percentage of your calories has to be, there's a high percentage of fat from your calories. There's a high percentage or a moderate percentage of protein from your calories, and there's a low percentage of carbohydrate from your calories. Why is that percentage important? Because the percentage means it's a portion of a certain amount of calories. If you don't put the percentage in, it's not a proportion of calories, it's a total amount of calories. And that's where people go wrong in the ketogenic diet. High fat, oh yeah, I can eat lots of fat. I can have French fries, I can have French toast, I can have potato chips, I can have whatever, pizza, cheese, dairy, all the ways we get fat in our diet. But if it's a percentage, it doesn't mean you can have a lot of it. It means your percentage is high. So the key to the ketogenic diet is the total calories have to be about 1,200 calories. And the percentage of fat should be about 80 to 90%. So 80 to 90% of 1,200 is 960 is around 1,000 calories. That means you get 1,000 calories of fat. It doesn't mean you have a lot of fat in your diet. Do you guys see that? It's the percentage. You can't just keep eating fat because you'll eat too many calories. You got to keep your calories down, and that's the key to the ketogenic diet. It's the high fat percentage, low fat percentage, low total calorie diet. Most Americans, I think the average American is about 2,000 to 2,500 calories a day. And a lot of Americans are getting 3,000 or 4,000 calories a day. It's the low calorie intake that is important. Again, the less food you put in your body, the less work your body has to do, meaning the less nutritional resources it's going to be expending. And it really gets down to, do you want to expend your precious protein and your precious vitamins and your precious essential fatty acids on digesting your food? Or do you want to expend it on building muscle and on having a strong immune system and having great bones? If your digestive system is always working, it's always in action, you're always burning through nutrients. And if you're not replacing them with nutritional supplementation or with a good diet, you're running at a negative a negative nutrition deficit. So the ketogenic diet allows you to spare nutritional resources by eating less food. Ketogenic diet also lowers the biochemistry, specifically the insulin that's associated with high levels, with ingestion of a lot of calories, especially ingestion of carbs. And insulin is a major health problem. I'm going to give you a little prediction here. In the future, and by future I mean in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, you're going to start to hear about something called mTOR. Have you heard of that, Rebecca? mTOR? Little m, capital T, capital O, capital R, mTOR. And mTOR is a biochemical in the body, biochemical complex in the body that is associated with revving things up, with speeding things up, speeding up your metabolism. The body wants to be calm. It wants to be cool. It lives longer, and its parts don't wear out as fast when it's not moving so fast, metabolically speaking. That's why animals that have lower metabolisms live a lot longer than animals that have faster metabolism. An elephant can live 80 years or 70 years, has a really, really slow metabolism. A mouse lives 2 months. It has a really, really fast metabolism. A fruit fly lives 2 days. It has a super, super, super fast metabolism. Slowing down the metabolism and giving the metabolism more power, I'll tell you how you do that in a sec, is how you live a long life. What the ketogenic diet does is it reduces the speed of the body, the metabolism of the body, by reducing the action of mTOR. mTOR is sped up by sugar and insulin. The problem, one of the biggest problems with sugar and insulin is the hormone that controls sugar, is it tells the body it's time to grow. It tells cells it's time to divide. It tells the metabolism it's time to move. Insulin, sugar, via this molecule mTOR, speed everything up. What the ketogenic diet does is it calms everything down. Number one, it calms it down by reducing caloric intake, especially calories that are coming in from sugar, from carbohydrates. So it has a lowering effect on mTOR and on insulin. And then number two, the ketogenic diet, when it's done correctly, supplies the body with a more powerful form of energy. Sugar is a form of energy, but it's not a really powerful form of energy. The ketogenic diet supplies the body with a super powerful form of energy that's produced when the body burns fat. This powerful form of energy, it's like a nuclear bomb of energy, is called a ketone. Thus the term ketogenic diet. When you eat the ketogenic way, your body can't get energy from carbohydrates because you don't have a lot of carbohydrates. Your body has to get energy from fat, and it has to get energy from the fat you're burning inside your body. And we'll talk about that here in just a sec. So fat, eventually, when it's broken down, will produce ketones, which function as nuclear bombs of energy that are especially important for the brain and for the heart, and also for the immune system. So folks who have Alzheimer's disease, folks who have dementia, folks who are having memory problems, folks who have heart disease, people have cancer, people have immune problems, autoimmune disease. All these people benefit tremendously, tremendously from the ketogenic diet. And in fact, all of us would benefit from the ketogenic diet. I consider it the ideal way to eat. There are doctors and medical professionals who don't really know about the ketogenic diet, and also sometimes some lay people who don't really know about the ketogenic diet's main point, which I just told you. And they'll say, oh, ketogenic diet, that's for diabetics, get that, and they have to go to the hospital. They get mixed up a condition called ketoacidosis with ketogenesis. Ketoacidosis is a disease state where the body is burning fat like crazy because there's so much fat present either in the body or in foods. The ketogenic diet, remember, is a low-calorie diet. You're not going to go into ketoacidosis if you do the ketogenic diet correctly. If you keep the fats down, you're not going to go into ketoacidosis. So anybody who tells you that doesn't really understand the nature of the ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet is the ideal way to eat. Sometimes people will say, oh, it's too much fat for people who have fatty liver, or people who have fat problems, or people who have fat metabolism issues. Again, they're missing the percentage idea that you're only getting about 1,000 calories or 900 calories a day from fat. So it's not like you're getting a lot of fat. It's a high percentage of calories from fat. So I consider it the ideal way to eat with an exception, and that is not really a way of eating, although it is a way of eating, and that's fasting. So fasting is kind of a way of eating, or maybe it's a kind of way of non-eating, and that really is also a good way. You can't do it, obviously, you have to eat eventually, although you can go without food for 30 days, 40 days, but for most people, 1 or 2 days is hard enough. So it's not really a practical way to eat, but it is practical to fast once a day or once a month for a day, or once a month for 2 days a month, or 3 days a month, or once a week, as much as you can do. And if you can't fast a whole day, just go long periods during the day without eating, or stop eating at 4 in the afternoon and start eating at noon the next day. If you can go long stretches without food, that can start the biochemistry of fasting going. You won't have the long sustained biochemistry of fasting kicking in unless you do 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days of fasting, but you can start it a little bit. So what is the biochemistry of fasting? Well, it's kind of like ketogenesis. Under conditions of fasting, your body starts to burn fat, and it will burn fat the same way it will burn fat in the ketogenic diet. It will release ketones. And people who fast understand, excuse me, that after you get past a certain period of fasting, your ketones kick in and you have so much energy and you feel so good, you don't even want to eat. You don't even want to start eating again. And I'm sure some of you experienced this. If you fasted for a whole day or for 2 days, it's almost like you're kind of scared to eat again, because you know you're going to go through that all of the negative feelings and the biochemical problems that are associated with foods. So fasting is an awesome thing to do if you can do it, especially if you're sick, unless you're malnourished. You don't want to be malnourished, but if you have some kind of autoimmune problem and you fast, typically you'll start to feel better. There's a really cool book called The Walls Protocol by Dr. Terry Walls. I've talked about this before. WAHL apostrophe S, The Walls Protocol. And she was an MD, and she cured herself of multiple sclerosis by fasting. Now, she had to eat eventually, but when she ate, she was very careful about what she ate. But she noticed that when she fasted, her symptoms would go away. And you'll notice that if yourself, or if you have a friend or family member, loved one who has an autoimmune disease, you'll notice, or you should tell them that they'll notice when they stop eating, they'll feel better. And when they eat foods, their symptoms will flare up. And that's true about pretty much all inflammatory health issues. And by the way, after we all eat, we experience something called postprandial inflammation. And that is inflammation that spikes after we eat food. When you're eating food, your immune system becomes activated, because basically the enemy is now getting inside the body. So the immune system becomes on high alert, and any inflammatory condition will spike when you eat even lettuce, or when you eat even an apple or a banana or whatever, even something that's organic and it's vegetable and it's benign and it's mild. You'll still get a postprandial spike, let alone when you eat processed food, or when you eat meat, or when you eat something that's really complicated. So fasting is an ideal way to calm the body down, number one, to activate ketones, number two, and fasting is also a very important part of a process called autophagy or autophagy, A-U-T-O-P-H-A-G-Y. When we fast, our body becomes autophagus. Auto means self, phage means eating. Autophagy is self-eating. What does that mean? It means your body cleans itself out. It has a process for getting rid of dead cells, getting rid of toxins, getting rid of waste products, cleaning itself out, almost like you can clean your dishwasher by putting soap in it and not having any dishes in it. Or you can clean your blender by putting a little bit of soap in it and not putting any food or any blending material in the blender. It self-cleans. That's what happens to the body when you don't put any food in it. It runs on a self-cleaning mode and it becomes autophagus. And this is great for people who are on medication or people who are heavy metal poisoning, have some kind of toxicity going on, or it's just great for everybody. The more autophagy your body does, the less likely you are going to be sick, and the longer you live. This is one reason why calorie restriction is always associated with extended longevity. Calorie restriction, by the way, should always be associated with optimum nutrition, and that's called the Cron diet, calorie restriction, optimum nutrition. So in my humble opinion, the ketogenic diet is the perfect way to eat. Low calorie, low carbohydrates, and the carbohydrates that you want to ingest should always be vegetables with a little bit of fruits and small amounts, 10 to 15% of your calories coming from an easy to process protein. It's always helpful when you're using protein, by the way, to use digestive enzymes with your protein, as well as apple cider vinegar or noni juice, which Youngevity has a great noni juice product, or aloe or something acidic to help activate the enzymes that are associated with the digestion of meat or hard protein. The enzymes that are associated with protein digestion are called proteases. Youngevity's Ultimate Enzymes is a great source of natural proteases. Fats also, if you want to do the ketogenic diet, but you have a problem with fats, or even if you don't have a problem with fats, but you want to improve the way your body processes fats with the ketogenic diet, make sure you're using your Ultimate Enzymes, which contain an enzyme called lipase, bile, B-I-L-E, bile salts, which are found in the Ultimate Enzymes, as well as something called lecithin, which is found in the Ultimate Enzymes. You can buy lecithin granules too by themselves. And then also there's a really cool enzyme called pancreatin. And pancreatin also is important for the digestion of foods. And then don't forget about the apple cider vinegar. That's really important for helping acidify the contents of food as they leave the stomach and go into the intestine. And that's a whole nother story we can talk about and on another call. Let me see how much time we have. Okay, so we'll talk about sugar next time. Real quick, somebody asked about the package insert on a drug, and I always tell people that when they go to get a prescription drug, they should get the package insert. The pharmacist usually doesn't like to give the package insert, and the doctors don't like you to see the package insert. I got into trouble once for talking about the package insert with a patient. The doctor called me up and said, "Don't you ever tell my patient about the package insert," because they don't. The package insert is, and I can kind of see his point a little bit, because the package insert can be really scary, because the package insert has everything that could possibly go wrong. And if you read the package insert on a drug that you're taking, it can be really scary when you read about all the possible things that could go wrong. But that doesn't mean that they're always going to happen. So, I can kind of see the doctor's point. Nonetheless, we should all know what we're getting ourselves into if we're taking a prescription drug. That being said, there's one key health issue that's associated with taking drugs that doesn't show up on the package insert, and that is the same kind of issue that happens when you eat food. I said earlier how when we eat food, we have to mobilize our resources to digest the food, the essential fatty acids and the B vitamins and the amino acids. There's all kinds of nutrients that play a role in the detoxification and the assimilation and the digestion of foods, and the absorption of foods. Likewise, when you're on a prescription drug, there are nutrients that are required to detoxify that drug. And those nutrients, things like coenzyme Q10 and vitamin C and magnesium and manganese and copper and selenium and zinc, a whole slew of these nutrients, deficiencies in these nutrients is not going to show up on the packaging, it's not going to show up in the side effects, the adverse reactions. So you may end up with a health challenge 2 or 3 years down the road that's associated with the nutritional deficiencies that were linked to the detoxification of your Mevacor or of your beta blocker, whatever it is you're taking, that don't show up in the package insert. So above and beyond what you see on the package insert, there's a whole issue of nutritional deficiencies, and everybody on prescription drugs, this is a great thing for longevity distributors to know, everybody on a prescription drug should be on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine minimum, but at least the Healthy Start Pack. But just to detoxify, just to replace the nutrients that are cost that the body is using up in the detoxification process, Beyond Tangy Tangerine is a must-have, not an option. Insurance companies should pay for Beyond Tangy Tangerine. All medical professionals who are writing scripts for drugs should have Beyond Tangy Tangerine in their office. And certainly anybody who's taking a prescription drug should know about Beyond Tangy Tangerine. Of course, it's not just Beyond Tangy Tangerine, but that's just an easy way to get started. All right, so the package insert, and I'm kind of dating myself when I call it the package insert because now everything's on the internet, so you don't need the package insert. I used to call it the package insert. And if you've ever seen the PDR, I haven't seen one of those for a while, the physician's desk reference. The physician's desk reference, or PDR, is just a book of package inserts. Yeah, it's that big, right? Yeah, and it gets bigger every year. So I just printed one off for Mevacor. Mevacor is a statin drug, and it's one of the more mild drugs. You know, all drugs have their costs, but as far as drugs go, Mevacor is one of the more mild ones. The first thing is on the package insert, or I'll call it the package insert just for convenience, but I got this off the internet. The first thing is the description, which is a description of the drug. Nobody cares about that unless you're a chemist or you're a pharmacologist. Even pharmacists, there's not a lot of super information from there, but it does tell you what's in the tablet. So, for example, if you wanted to make a lovastatin or a Mevacor tablet, it would tell you that you need cellulose, lactose, magnesium stearate, and starch. Now, all of those are pretty much benign. They don't do anything. They just run right through your body. Then there's an antioxidant called BHA, butylated hydroxy anisole. I think that's what the A stands for. And that's not a great preservative, but it's there. It's an antioxidant, really. And then it also has FD and C blue 2, aluminum lake. Those are dyes. Those are pigments. And then it also has D and C yellow 10, aluminum lake, and a couple other dyes. So basically, it's a dye and it's starch and it's a few other things. The reason this is important is not so much for Mevacor, but for injectables. Drugs that are injected into your body will have some of these inactive ingredients in order to deliver the drug through the bloodstream, and they don't tell you what those are. So when you have a viral infection and some healthcare professional says, oh, don't worry about this injection because it's just been FDA approved, blah, 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 blah. They don't tell you about the other ingredients that are being injected into your bloodstream, aside from the so-called active ingredient, or the ingredient that's doing the work. And that's why these excipients, or these added ingredients to support the tablet, they become important in injectables. They're much more important in injectables than when taken orally. The second section is pharmacology, and that's kind of what the drug does to the body. It's actually quite interesting, but you do have to have a little biochemical background. So the average person doesn't really have to know about that. It includes the dosage, how much they take, and the clinical studies. That's not as important, and that is the bulk of the package insert, by the way, is the pharmacology. Then there's what's called the indications, and that's what it's used for, and the indications and usage, and that's what it's used for. And then we come to the stuff that we really want to start to pay attention to, and that's the contraindications. And contraindications are the conditions that you have. An indication is a condition. Indication is a medical term for a condition. So indications for taking a drug are the conditions that you would take the drug for. Contraindications are the conditions that you have that keep you from taking that drug. In other words, an indication is a condition, diabetes, for example, fatty liver disease, those are indications. A contraindication is fatty liver disease or diabetes that will interfere with the drug, or the drug will interfere with the disease. So contraindication is something that you should know about if you're suffering from a health challenge and you're considering taking a drug. Is this drug contraindicated with my fatty liver disease? Is it contraindicated with my arthritis? Is it contraindicated with my ALS or my fibromyalgia or whatever condition I have? And then is the most important part is the warnings. And some drugs have such severe warnings that they have a black box warning. Those are uber warnings. Those are extra warning. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. You guys remember that? That's a severe warning. But for most drugs, they're not going to have a black box warning. This statin drug has a warning for something called muscle disease. Cholesterol plays a very important role for muscles. The technical term is rhabdomyolysis, but it's basically muscle disease or myopathy. And then it also has drugs that will make the lovastatin more powerful or less powerful. They'll interfere with the lovastatin. And then they'll have what are called precautions. And in the precautions, you'll have things that you have to be aware of. In the case of the statin drugs, you got to have precautions for mental health problems, dementia, memory problems, muscle disease, immune problems. The most important precaution is against muscle disease. And that's pretty much it. So the most important thing on a package insert is going to be the last part of the package insert, which is where most of the information for the patient resides. And again, you can find the package insert on the internet, and anybody on a prescription drug, in my humble opinion, as a pharmacist, should be looking this up. And don't worry about the first few pages. Just start off at the last page where it starts, where it goes to, where it starts. What is that here?
The contraindications?
Contraindications, yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Now we'll talk about sugar because I kind of ran over here a little bit. So we'll talk.
Yeah, we'll talk about sugar another time. Now, do you have a few minutes? We have some hands up and a question that was emailed in.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
let's put first the question that was emailed in. I'm trying to get off the typical medical prescription for herpes, and this person is on the icyclovir. I have read that olive leaf is just as effective in controlling breakouts. What do you suggest? This did not occur until I turned 65. My doctor says that it's possibly occurring as immune system weakens as we get older, and I probably got it in college years ago. It's frustrating. I build my immune system every day with everything we know, and now even take colostrum because of the C pandemic. What is your advice, Pharmacist Ben?
What is this person's name?
I'm not saying names.
Just joking. I'm just joking. Yes, herpes cold sores are opportunistic, like many viruses, including the current virus that's in the news. They're opportunistic. What does that mean? They wait for an opportunity to pounce. And people who get cold sores all know that when they're under stress, and they break up with their boyfriend or their girlfriend, or they're having problems with their kids, they get fired from their job, or this, whatever stress happens in their life, that's when they break out. Immune and stress has a immune weakening, immune lowering effect. So yes, that's how you want to take care of it. The idea, there's two ways you can take care of an infection. Herpes is an infection. Infection is when a bacteria or a fungus or a virus or a parasite or some bad guy, something attacks us. That's called an infection, and then it spreads. There's two ways you can control the infection. Okay, there's the medical way, which is to attack the infection, and sometimes that's necessary, especially if the infection's out of control. And then there is the sophisticated way, which is a little bit more long-term way, and that's to take care of the soil. That's to take care of the ground. That's to take care of what's called in biochemistry, the terrain. You want to take care of the place where the bacteria or the substance is going to grow. The microbe is going to proliferate. It's going to attack and proliferate, which makes much more sense in the long term. In the short term, you absolutely need to kill the thing sometimes. But that creates problems because these things learn and they become resistant, and all of a sudden nothing works anymore. So it's not really a good strategy to kill things. Olive leaf extract does have some antiviral properties. Oregano is one of the best topical antivirals. Neem oil has some antiviral properties. Tea tree oil has some antiviral properties. But really, that's not the most effective way to deal with cold sores. The most effective way to deal with cold sores is to calm the body down, especially from the biochemical perspective of the hormone cortisol. Cortisol is the hormone that's associated with stress. And it's a huge problem when it comes to our health, because when cortisol goes up, our ability to handle long-term stresses goes down. Cortisol doesn't care about long-term, it cares about the immediate, it cares about the short-term. And it will do everything to get you out of the pickle in the short term, or in the near short term, not the immediate term, but the near short term, at the expense of the long term. The immune system is long term. There's no immediate threat from the immune system, from a suppressed immune system. So when cortisol goes up, the immune system becomes suppressed. So the best way to strengthen your immune system is not to take stuff to take the immune system, although that is helpful sometimes. I think this lady said she was taking colostrum and everything she knew to take for her immune system. That's great, but keep that cortisol down. And there's lots of ways to do it. We talked earlier about the sympathetic nervous system. Cortisol and the sympathetic nervous system work hand in hand. Cortisol is the major tool of the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system becomes activated, cortisol is secreted, and that's how all the effects like the high blood pressure and the lower immunity and the wrinkles and the weight gain and the osteoporosis and the constipation and the hypothyroidism and the lack of libido and the anxiety and the depression and the infertility. All of these are issues of the sympathetic nervous system mediated through the chemical cortisol. So lowering cortisol is the key. Interestingly, there's a hormone that balances out cortisol that you can get over the counter. And as we get older, we don't make as much of this hormone. And this is because this hormone balances out cortisol. It's one of the most important anti-stress, anti-aging hormones you could ever take. And nobody even recognizes it that, although we do recognize it as a sleep hormone, and that's melatonin. Melatonin has a balancing effect on stress, especially on stress hormones like cortisol. Melatonin has a calming effect on the body. And as we age, our melatonin levels drop and our cortisol levels go up. Insomnia among the elderly is an epidemic. Insomnia among everybody is an epidemic, but there's all kinds of problems that people have as they get older with falling asleep. And a lot of that is because of long-term secretion of cortisol in combination with the natural age-related drop in melatonin. So melatonin is a great way to help lower cortisol. Getting off of sugar or reducing your sugar intake can lower cortisol. There's a very important connection between sugar chemistry and cortisol, which we'll talk about next time. So reducing your sugar intake is important. Your ultimate EFAs have a cortisol balancing effect using the ultimate EFAs. And then there's non-supplemental strategies or non-dietary strategies like slow, deep breathing, slow, deep rhythmic breathing, hot water, body work, focus, doing something that you're being mentally focused on something, doing something that you love, getting in the flow. There's a whole psychological phenomenon called flow. Getting in flow has an anti-cortisol effect. Sleep has an anti-cortisol effect. Exercise will spike cortisol at first, but over the long run, it'll lower cortisol. There's lots of ways to lower cortisol, and that's the key to building an immune system, to building a strong, healthy immune system. Then there are it's a key, and then there are the supplements, which are another key to building an immune system. Vitamin C is probably the quintessential immune boosting vitamin, although vitamin A is very close. And interestingly, vitamin C and vitamin A are your skin's two most important topical vitamins, and they're probably the two most important immune system vitamin. There's a relationship there, I'm sure. And then there's also zinc, which if vitamin C, or I should say zinc and selenium, which are the two most important immune boosting minerals, like vitamin C and vitamin A are the two most important immune boosting vitamins. We have a product called OptiZinc, and of course, Dr. Wallach's been talking about the ultimate selenium forever. And selenium by itself, even if you don't do anything else, has been shown to strengthen the immune system enough to lower cortisol or to reduce the incidence of cold sores, of the herpes virus. And herpes, by the way, is related to shingles. So herpes and shingles, if you're prone towards herpes, you might be prone towards shingles as well. And herpes is just, it's uncomfortable and it's cosmetically unappealing, but shingles is absolutely miserable. But shingles is also an opportunistic virus, and everything we just talked about. If you're worried about shingles as you get older, you can reduce the likelihood of getting that awful, painful, miserable neural condition by doing these anti-herpes virus these are general antiviral strategies also for the current immune system virus, which is coming back in the news now. I don't know if you heard that. So we might have a whole nother chapter to go in this sordid tale that we've been dealing with.
Well, that just gives us more to talk about and
Sure.
give more hope
And
to things that we are empowered
right. And
to be able to utilize.
more people who will wake up.
That's right. So I love the fact that we have people that are waking up on with us, and they know people who are waking up or looking for that, hello, wake up, wake up. So I know my son doesn't like the way I wake him up, but hey, sometimes we got to do what we got to do because we care. So that's my thought. And shingles in the eye is
Oh,
probably the worst
I can't even imagine.
ever thing I've ever experienced in my whole entire life.
Did you have it?
Mm.
How long?
Well, since taking longevity, I've only had one outbreak in 7 years. And
How long did it last?
prior to that, I was having it every 3 weeks for about 6 months,
And how long would it last?
4 to 5 days.
Oh my God. I heard about that, shingles in the eye. Shingles
It-
affects the nervous system, and you have a lot of nerves in the eye. Yeah, I've heard of. I can't even imagine it. You
Yeah,
are.
I would start in the right eye and cross over to the left. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't see. I
That's terrible.
no light. I mean, pitch black because it intensified pain
You had it every 3 or 4 months.
every 3 weeks.
With your cycle, with your menstrual cycle.
I never linked that.
bet
I don't
it-
know,
It was.
but
It was probably associated with your cycle.
it was horrible. And that's one thing that I probably have the most gratitude for with taking the supplementation and not having to experience that. So yeah, and vitamin C is a big thing. Zinc is a big thing. Just strengthening the whole immune system. Whatever's in this stuff is good. So anyways, let's go to hand that is up, and Ross has been patiently waiting here. So Ross, go ahead and unmute.
Hello,
Hey, Ross.
how are you, Ben?
Good. Nice to see you.
Great to see you. It's a pleasure to speak to you again. I spoke to you in the past a couple of times
Right.
on Coast to Coast, and you are a great educator, and your education has helped me a lot
Thank you.
all these years. Thank you very much for that.
Pay it forward. Now you educate everybody else.
Thank you. My question, I have got a couple of questions, but the main question that I have today is about an enlarged prostate. I am actually close to 60. I'll be 60 years old in a couple of months. And I've been dealing with enlarged prostate for actually a few months now. I've been taking,
Getting up in the middle of the night, Ross?
I'm sorry?
Getting up in the middle of the night, Ross?
Yes, sir.
Multiple times, like 5, 6 times kind of thing?
No, maybe once or twice.
Okay, that's
Once or twice, yeah. I've been taking Prostafix by Longevity for about 3-4 months now. I've been taking 2 of it every day, and as it is described, prescribed on the package, but it has not helped me a lot.
Use the Prostafix, continue, but let me give you the logic of the prostate.
Yes, sir.
You have, by the way, when you were a kid, when you were like a teenager or a young man, did you have breakouts, T-zone breakouts?
No.
You didn't break out?
No.
I'm looking at your body type. Your body type is prone towards prostate issues. And I can tell by your head. I only see your head and your upper body and your hair, but I could tell by in your bone structure. So I would have guessed that you had breakouts when you were a kid. You may want, I don't know. It seems like I'd be surprised if you didn't break out when you're a kid simply because of your body.
Maybe I did and I don't remember.
You know more than I know. So I'm not, I don't want to contradict what you're saying, but your body type is such that you're going to be prone towards prostate issues. And that becomes very important because right now it's not as severe a problem as it can be, but it can be serious later on. So what do you want to do? The prostate is a fatty gland. It's very fatty. So it's dependent on fats in a good way and in a bad way. In a good way, or in a bad way, let's say first, it's very, it's affected by the wrong kinds of fats, especially fried fats. Now, It's true about the whole body in general, but especially parts of the body that are concentrations, they're really concentrated fat, like the prostate. So you should have zero tolerance as best as you can for any fried fat, cooked fat, processed fat, nothing.
None.
None of that.
None. Yeah.
That's first of all. Then there are the fats that you want. Those are the fats you don't want. Then there are the fats you want. And the fats you want are number one, essential fatty acids, the ultimate EFAs. You should be pounding them. And it's both omega-6s and omega-3s. They're both important, but especially omega-3s. So you may want to make sure that you're using, do you eat sushi? You may want to get some fish oil in addition to the ultimate EFAs. You get a little bit of fish oil in the ultimate EFAs, but you may want to get a little bit more fish oil omega-3, or and probably as well something like hemp seed oil or flaxseed oil. You'll get some of the EFAs, but you might want a little more omega-3.
Okay.
Then there are fatty vitamins, especially vitamin E. You should be using vitamin E, maybe 400. And Youngevity has some vitamin E in some of the products, but I would take more. I would take like 400 to 800 international units a day of vitamin E. And then vitamin A. Again, there's probably, you'll get some. If you're using, are you doing the Healthy Start Pack?
No, I don't. I take basically like Ultimate EFA Plus. I take the CFX. I take the Glucogel, and I take the Tangerine 2.5.
You're getting a lot of it. Just try and
Yeah.
run the totals and see if you can make sure you're getting yourself 20,000 IU of vitamin A, 400 IU of vitamin E. Sunshine. I like sun. The sun's the best source of vitamin D that I consider. Make sure you're getting plenty of sun. And then
We
there's
have a lot of it here.
also minerals that are fatty, and those are especially important for the prostate. Remember, the prostate's fatty gland. You're going to focus on fats, and there's two minerals that are fatty minerals in the sense that they're processed by the fat system, and that's zinc and selenium. And those are both especially important for the prostate.
Right.
Okay. And then there are plant nutrients. We talked about phytonutrients earlier, about how you get phytonutrients from veggies. Well, it turns out those plant nutrients, phyto means plant. So these phytonutrients or these plant nutrients are found in the fatty portion of the plant. And there's a class of them called phytosterols that are especially important for inflammation and for BPH and for prostate issues. So you get yourself on either phytosterol supplement, you can buy those at the health food store, or one phytosterol in particular that's almost like a miracle for the prostate, which if you're only going to the bathroom once or twice a night, you may not notice it as much, but for folks who are going 5 or 6 times a night, this is like a miracle, and that's called beta cytosterol. It's one of the phytosterols. There's a bunch of phytosterols. This is one of them, and you need a high dose of it, like maybe 3 to 500 milligrams a day of this phytosterol, and you should probably take it too, but you're not going to notice it as dramatically as if you were having a real problem with the prostate. So that's a great place for you to start. Also, there's a hormone that testosterone gets turned into called DHT. Testosterone makes things grow, has an inflammatory effect on the prostate, but DHT has a super inflammatory effect, super anabolic effect. And so there's these things that you can take called DHT inhibitors that you might want to consider. One of the ultimate EFAs have something in it called GLA. So if you're going to take the ultimate EFAs, I'm not sure if you said DHA plus. Do you say you're on the plus?
Yes, Ultimate EFA Plus.
Has a molecule in it called GLA, which can be very helpful.
Okay.
This whole DHT effect.
Right. Thank you. Do you mind if I ask you a couple short questions?
Yeah.
How much vitamin C would you recommend to take per day? How much vitamin C is good for you?
You take as much as you want. I mean, there are people who inject 50 grams right into their blood.
Okay.
So that's 50,000 milligrams right into their blood. So it's completely non-toxic. The more, the better. The only issue is if you do it all at once or you do too much, you'll get bloating. You'll get a little crampy or maybe some diarrhea or something like that. So you got to control the dose there. They call that bowel tolerance. You go right to bowel tolerance. And that means like maybe, for most people, that'd be like 4 or 5 grams, but it's hard to say. There's no real way to know. I would err on the side of higher than lower, which is 4 or 5 grams, even up to 10 grams if you're sick. If you feel like you're getting sick, you feel like you have a cold, take extra. you can't overdose on it. So it's
Okay.
on the side of higher than lower. Personally, I take 3 to 5 grams a day. There's no real way to know. I can tell you this, the RDA for vitamin C is ridiculous. Like, you know what I call the RDA, right? The ridiculous deficiency allowance.
Okay.
It's ridiculous, and it keeps you deficient, and it's not fair. It's mean-spirited.
Okay.
Although their intention was to keep you from having a vitamin C deficiency disease, it doesn't give you anywhere near the vitamin C you need. So for most of us, we're getting our vitamin C from multiple vitamin, or we're getting it from fruit, oranges, or something like that. We're way under nutriated in vitamin C. And vitamin C is not only important for the immune system, it's also important, by the way, for the prostate. I forgot to mention that. It's really, really important for anti-aging. It's the anti-aging vitamin. We talked about that a couple of Zooms ago. So I would err on the side of taking more than less. The Beyond Tangy Tangerine is a great way to get a nice, healthy dose of vitamin C. That's one of my favorite things about the Beyond Tangy Tangerine.
That's what I'm taking, actually, CFX. But yeah, I take two of them a day.
12 is great.
No, 2.
Oh, 2 of them a day.
Yeah.
How many? How much is in a capsule, in a tablet?
I believe 500 milligram.
Take 4 of them a day.
4. Okay, thank you.
Lots of doses.
And lastly, about this product that it has been discontinued, it called a Projoba Full. That was a drop, oil drop for the hair.
What was it though? What's in it? The ingredients.
The ingredients are flower pollen extract, ethanol, 100% quanta water, lemon essential oil, aloe vera. This has been a great product that has unfortunately been discontinued.
If you want to hear something funny, there's that flower extract, that bee, do you say bee pollen extract?
Mm.
What did you say the extract, the first extract was in the ingredients? Did you say bee pollen?
It just says flower pollen extract.
Okay, yeah, you know what that's also used for? I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Ross, RSS.
You know that pollen extract is also used for the prostate.
Oh, really?
That's what I was telling you. It's the same chemistry. Hair on your head and the prostate. So you can actually get bee pollen extract and make your own if they're not making it anymore. You can get
okay.
That's the active ingredients, the bee pollen extract, but you can mix it all together with those other things and make your own if you like.
My mom was using this oil, and it is a phenomenal product because she had such a hair growth suddenly within a very short period of time, and she's very disappointed not being able to get this.
Well, you can make it. I probably shouldn't say so, but they're not selling it anymore, right? You can buy pollen extract at the health food store, and then all those other ingredients you can just make it yourself
and just mix them together.
Mix them together.
Okay.
I don't know much about bee pollen extract. I don't know how well it dissolves, but you might have to mash it up. But you can play around with it.
Okay, I'll do my research and see what I can do. Thank you very much, Ben. I appreciate that, and I speak to you soon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right, let's go to the next hand that is up. And Jill, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Jill.
Try again. There we go.
Okay, yeah, I was unmuted earlier, so I think that was the problem. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Jill. How you doing?
I'm great. Lots of great info here again today, as always. I have 2 questions that are food related, but the first one is I'm working with somebody who is concerned about pancreatitis. And so I am interested in what you'd recommend for a diet for pancreatitis, but of course I'm also interested for supplements for that. And when I say that he's concerned about it, it shows up when he has a CAT scan and some other medical tests. But when they discuss symptoms, he has none of the symptoms. So he doesn't really know if he has pancreatitis or not, but he's concerned about, making sure it doesn't go forward. He also has lots and lots and lots of bone and joint issues, like shoulders that need replaced, the hip's been done, another hip needs done, arthritis in his hands. But I know what to do for that. It's the pancreatitis that I'm looking for some specific help.
Okay, so first of all, you say he has none of the symptoms. He doesn't have pain. He doesn't have digestive issues. He doesn't have gas. He doesn't have cramping, nausea, none of that stuff.
He says no. Now, I had him do a health evaluation for me before I got on the call, and his health evaluation wasn't useful to me because he was one of those low scorers and basically told me nothing. You know, he basically didn't give me the honest score.
Yeah, I can't.
So I do believe he has some digestive issues for sure. He doesn't have oily stool, and that's one of the things they keep asking him about. He doesn't have that, but
You can't go by what he's telling you.
exactly.
Is he older?
He's 64. He weighs 228 pounds. He
Oh.
was in construction his whole life, like union construction, high steel buildings, things like that.
Oh,
So he has a lot of physical work on his body.
how tall?
5'10".
Okay, so here's the deal. If he has been, I'm going to assume he has pancreatitis. It's not all that uncommon, but usually there's going to be some pretty blatant digestive health issues. The pancreas makes the enzymes for the body, and especially for the digestive system. So if you're not have an inflamed pancreas, you're going to have a problem digesting. They go hand in hand, and that's what pancreatitis is. So a couple things. First of all, pancreatic enzymes, the ultimate enzymes, are a must-have for him. And it could, by the way, all of his other problems could be following the pancreatitis.
Yes,
So
understood.
So in other words, he's not absorbing and digesting his food properly. Number one, he's not going to get the nutrients from his food. And number two, he's going to get toxicity in the blood, and that's going to cause an inflammatory condition inside the system, inside the body. So the pancreas is pretty much in the center of the body, and for good reason, because it is the center of everything, along with the intestine and stomach, that whole area in the middle of the body. So the pancreas is very important, and without an effectively functioning pancreas, he is running risks for nutritional deficiencies and toxicity into the system. And it very well may be that when you take care of the pancreas, everything else will resolve itself. There's a reason, by the way, why pancreatic cancer is the most deadly form of cancer, because the pancreas is making all the enzymes. The pancreas, without the pancreas, you're in big trouble. Pancreatic insufficiency is also an issue. In fact, I just saw a commercial, I started to see commercials for something called EPI, exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. And that's kind of an issue where you have, if not pancreatitis, but just you're not making enough pancreatic enzymes. So pancreatin is very important. Reducing the load on the pancreas can be helpful. The pancreas is the gland that's responsible for making insulin, so keeping sugar down, ketogenic diet. In fact, the calorie restriction would be great, because that would put less load on the pancreas as well. So if you can get him eating less food, you know, if you asked him what he was eating, I'm sure he would be eating foods that require a lot of pancreatic work, especially sugar, but also fats. And that's an important part of fat metabolism. So understanding how he's processing, digesting, eliminating fats is really important to get a straight answer about how his pancreas is doing. If he doesn't know how it's doing when it's bad, he's not going to know how it's doing when it becomes good. You know, he's not going to notice if he's getting any better.
Yeah, he told me red sauce tears him up. That was like one of the food things that he told me.
This is like tomato sauce?
Yeah, like pasta sauce, like red sauce. Yeah.
You don't know what he was eating the pasta sauce with. He's not eating pasta sauce with a spoon, probably, right? You know.
No, of course he's eating it with pasta, of course.
So he's, you know, so it could be, you don't know what it is. So in any case, working on the pancreas is the key. There's the ultimate enzymes for longevity, apple cider vinegar with all of his meals, the nightly essence, and all of his fat. He's probably going to be experiencing nutritional deficiencies. So if you can get him on fatty nutrients, that would also help. The ultimate EFAs, of course, the ultimate zinc, which I consider to be a fatty nutrient, the ultimate niacin, and the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. Calorie restriction, especially, calorie restriction would be really helpful. See how he feels when he fasts. So that would be a good clue for you. There's one more thing I was going to tell. Oh, of course, baking soda. Make sure he's using baking soda. In fact, there's a guy named Dr. Mark Circus, S as in Sam, IRCUS as in Sam. And he writes a lot about baking soda after meals, especially for pancreatitis. So after he has meals, like maybe not right after meals, but like a couple hours after meals, a little bit of baking soda, a quarter teaspoon of baking soda in water can help the pancreas. In fact, baking soda, sodium bicarbonate.
Can you spell that name again?
Mark Circus, S as in Sam, I as in Igloo, R as in Randy, C as in Cat, U as in Uncle, S as in Sam. He has a book called the sodium bicarbonate or the baking soda solution. I'm not sure, one or the other. And it's a really cool book. And
Okay.
baking soda is amazing, amazing stuff for health. Just plain old sodium bicarbonate.
And the apple cider,
The pancreas makes.
vinegar,
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
The apple cider vinegar, do you recommend before or after the gummies?
Before the gummies, with the gummies.
No, I mean, do you recommend the gummies before he eats or after he eats? Is
Oh.
what I'm saying.
I see what you're saying. Both. Doing both. Some people say before, so the acid's already in the stomach. Some people say after, so the food is in the stomach. You're acidifying the contents of the stomach. It's not like there's a lot of time when you start eating, between when you start eating, when you stop eating. So it's not the end of the world either way. But do both.
Okay. And how about a diet? How about foods?
Ketogenic diet. Actually, you know what? He has to see how he does with fats. Sometimes people on have pancreatic problems have a problem with fats. You have to see how he does with fats. Does he have a gallbladder? Do you know?
Yes. And he says he claims his gallbladder is fine.
Well, he doesn't really know necessarily. So
Yeah.
So I'd be careful with fats is the only thing. See how he does when he does fats. A good way to test to see how you're doing with fats, if you have a gallbladder problem, if you have a pancreatic problem, if you have an intestinal problem, all of these are organs that are responsible for fat absorption, digestion and absorption and assimilation, is to do a teaspoonful of some kind of nutritional fat or some butter, some straight butter, and see how your body handles it. If you get nauseous, if you get queasy, if you just don't feel right, or if it passes through, you have loose stools, you have oily stools, all of these are signs that you have a problem with your fat system. And that's a good diagnostic a diagnostic tool where you can actually test yourself, see how well you're absorbing fats. And if you aren't absorbing fats, Dr. Wallach calls our ultimate enzymes gallbladder in a bottle, and for good reason.
Yeah.
That's a good tool that you could use. But look up Mark Circus. He has a lot of good things to say about baking soda for the pancreas.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you. And then my other question, I had typed in the chat before about phytates. So you touched a little bit on phytates and beans and stuff like that. But a lot of people, they put coconut milk or almond milk in their protein shake, and maybe they add spinach too, who knows? And, it's a phytate. So we're taking the protein shake, and sometimes some of us are adding Beyond Tangy Tangerine to it too.
So what are you saying? Are you saying that the phytates in, I'm not sure what you're saying. The phytates in almond milk?
Well, I'm pretty sure almonds and coconuts are phytates. So when you have them in milk and it's almond milk and coconut milk, does that apply? Is it considered a phytate and will keep you from absorbing the nutrition?
Phytates are much ado about nothing. Phytates, there's a little bit of chelation that occurs, but it's not like you're going to lose all the nutritional value out of your food because there's phytates in it. There is some chelation, but that chelation also has antitoxin properties, and it chelates heavy metals. So it's actually, phytates are actually not a bad thing, although you are going to lose a little calcium and some zinc, and there's some minerals that will get chelated by the phytates and make them less available, but it's not like you're going to run into significant nutritional deficiencies from some phytates.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Jill. Let's go over to Jenny.
Hi. I guess my question I have is my great niece, she's 2. The doctor has said eczema. He has said infantago. I don't think it's infantago, but it is all over her entire body.
That's easy.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, eczema, if she has it all over her body, is it a rash, or is it like you can see the skin underneath? Is it like skin's not forming a barrier? Like the surface of the skin's not forming correctly, or is it rashy?
It's like a rash.
Okay.
It's like a rash. And now the 4-year-old is getting it on her back.
Okay, listen, it's so simple. The eczema is an immune condition. That means something is attacking the body. So how do things attack the body? Are there eczema angels sprinkling eczema dust on her head? No, obviously. Are little elves shooting arrows at her, eczema arrows at her? No. Is she injecting things in the back alley into her bloodstream? No. How is the body being attacked?
From the inside.
What's getting in? How do things get into the body?
I guess it could be from like laundry soap or what she's eating.
No. How do
No.
things get inside the body?
Ingesting it.
You said you're what's your name again?
Jenny,
Dr. Jenny. I now pronounce you a doctor. I'm like the wizard in the Wizard of Oz. Back where I come from, you're a doctor. You now know how the body works. How else? It's just logic. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of being a little facetious, but it's just logic. Something's getting into her body. It's an immune condition. How do I know it's an immune condition? Well, first of all, I know how the body works, but just so, even if I didn't know how the body works, what do they give you to get rid of the eczema? What kind of product? They give you an immune suppressant. So that tells you have an immune condition. You don't have to be, it's just logic. Whenever you have an immune condition, the first thing you have to look at is what's getting into the body that is making the immune system. The immune system is the defense system. Whenever you have an immune condition, you have a defense condition. Throw the word immune out. It's defense. You follow? Make sense?
Right.
So when you have a defense condition, you have an offending agent. You can't have a defense condition unless you have an offending agent. So the offending agent, you know, it comes in through your skin if you're injecting. And let me tell you something, people who inject drugs through their skin have all kinds of skin problems. It's a very common, you've seen probably pictures of meth addicts in their face and their skin, they're all broken, right? So because when you inject things through your skin, that's one way the immune system can be spiked, no pun intended. But the main way things get in, especially for a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old, and it's very easy with a 2-year-old because he's not eating a lot of different things, is to look for foods. I'm guaranteeing you, is this your baby? Did you say, is this yours?
it's my great niece, and that's what I was thinking is to, I mean, she needs to get her on the good food, bad food, you know, the good food
Look
list.
for her stools, go by her stools.
Okay,
Messed up stools. It's easy with a 2-year-old because they're not doing a lot of things. It's much harder with an adult who's got a lot of stimulants, a lot of things coming into the body to stimulate it. So with kids, you got 2-year-olds, it's simple. Now, the fact that the 4-year-old just started getting it, that's an interesting development. Ask the mom, what did the 4-year-old just start eating?
okay,
How did the 4-year-old just start change? What changed in the 4-year-old's life? Something that's going to affect the immune system. Now, the 4-year-old's a little older, so he could be affected by psychological things. The 2-year-old is just what's going into the body. It's as simple as that. Now, in addition to and the biggest problems are going to be grains, beans, the lectin foods that I talked about earlier, grains, beans, peanuts, nuts, all legumes, soy, you know, but it could be anything. Dairy, is he on formula? Formula is a big problem. Formula is the worst. I mean, there's sometimes you can't do anything.
yeah, they're not,
So
she's
they're
not on formula.
doing is she breastfed, being breastfed?
No, she just eats regular and drinks cow's milk and,
Could easily be cow's milk. It could be eggs.
okay,
And then also baby probiotics to support the digestive system.
okay,
For the older one, you might want to consider starting to a little bit of a supplement program.
okay,
Younger one, but we don't have infant supplements. You have to get like an infant supplement. But if the younger one's already starting the standard American diet, it's a she, right? A little girl.
yeah, they're both girls.
Both girls. The 2-year-old is on a fast pace, has a head start to the standard American diet, which is not necessarily a good thing,
Mm-mm.
right?
I know that they don't eat very well. They eat a lot of junk, so.
You go.
What would you suggest for like my sister? Okay, so, and that could be some of the 4-year-olds too, because they just moved in with my sister and their
Yeah.
mom is there too. The move might be stressing her, but they, she's up all night. The 2-year-old's up all night, just itching. What would you, I mean, some kind of bath or?
No, she's itch is a defensive response.
Right,
So to take care of to soothe a little bit, oatmeal bath.
okay,
Get colloidal oatmeal, sprinkle it in the bathtub, put her in a warm colloidal oatmeal bath.
okay,
And you can even
and then work on the diet.
yeah, you can even make colloidal oatmeal paste with water and just put it on the skin to soothe
Okay.
the classic sign of the diet. Next time I see you, I want to see your diploma on the wall, Dr. Jenny.
I have my, my holistic health coach one.
Oh, okay, that's thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right.
All right, thank you, Jenny. Do you have time for another one, Ben?
All right, we'll do one more.
Okay, let's go ahead and Kitty, go ahead and unmute yourself. And I do want to mention, we do have the kids toddy, and based on weight can be given to an infant.
You go. I would recommend that for both those kids. Is this Cutie? Did you say Cutie?
Hi, Kitty.
Oh, I think you said Cutie.
Well, she's that too.
Well, thank you. My question, Pharmacist Ben, is I have recently been diagnosed as hypothyroid, and I have a lot of the classic symptoms. And I have been on bioidentical hormones for quite a while. And my doctor said that when I had my annual, my blood test results were I had high E1. My other readings were normal, but I had the high E1. And since my thyroid is now low, and I've always, for many, many years, I've been like in the lower range, always. And now I'm below that.
You know what you should do? You know what you should be doing, Cutie? Kitty,
What?
You should be singing.
Pardon me?
You should be singing.
I should be singing?
You should
Well, I do in the shower.
No, you need to express yourself. You're not expressing yourself. The thyroid is your throat. That's your expression center.
Yeah.
You're not expressing yourself. I can just tell. So that's the first thing. But I'll give you the nutritional stuff too. I talk about all kinds of stuff with the body because they're all connected. You need to sing. How does that sound? Can you feel that? You need to
I don't think that would be a problem. I think I could do that. I live alone.
sing. Express yourself. So the throat chakra, your thyroid is in your throat chakra, your throat center. And all women really are. Hypothyroidism is really a big thing for women as they get older. It's very, very common. In fact, it's more common than not, hypothyroidism in postmenopausal or menopausal women. It's extremely common. And it's interesting how it involves the throat and involves singing and it involves expressing yourself, not just singing. I picked singing. You seem like you'd be a good singer, but it's expressing yourself, being expressive. But that being said, which hormone replacement are you on? What HRT are you on? Do you know? Is it Tri-S or Bi-S? What do they call it?
I only know what's in it. I have she decreased my estrogen.
Is it a cream?
Pardon me?
Is it a cream or is it oral?
No, troches.
Troches. And then does it have 3 kinds of estrogen or 1 kind of estrogen or 2? All 3 kinds. Okay. All right. So here's the deal. When your estrogen levels go up, and not just your estrogen levels, this is a little bit confusing here, but it's very important. Estrogen, female hormone, is extremely powerful stuff. It's probably the most powerful of all the steroid hormones. Okay. And in order for it to not be a problem, the body eliminates it quickly. So estrogen is processed quickly. It goes to work and it gets processed through your gallbladder and your liver and your intestines and out your body it goes. And that's very important that it happens because estrogen is so powerful and so toxic. As we get older, our total estrogen levels, we don't make as much estrogen, but we don't clear it as effectively either. So we're not making the good stuff, but we're getting lots of the bad stuff. And that's likely what's happening to you as you're building up your hormones because you're not processing them correctly, which is very common. We'll just for simplicity's sake, your bad estrogen levels go up. And while you may not be getting all the benefits of estrogen, your bad estrogen benefits are going up. And one of the problems with bad estrogen is hypothyroidism. Estrogen spikes things and it will affect the thyroid. And that's why I say it's very common as women get older and HRT doesn't help and iodine is not going to help and thyroid strategies aren't going to help. What you got to do is you got to work at the level of your estrogen and the level of your adrenal glands. Those are the 2 areas you want to work on. Cortisol. So number 1 for estrogen, you should ask your doctor if you're not already on progesterone cream. Are you on a progesterone cream?
I believe she has progesterone in the.
Does have progesterone in there?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, good. So ask her if she could lower your dose of estrogen and raise your dose of progesterone because estrogen is toxic. Progesterone is not toxic. So
Okay.
you might ask her if she wants to rebalance those with the compounding pharmacist and get you a little bit more progesterone, a little less estrogen. That'd be one thing you might want to consider doing.
Okay.
Another thing you could do is you can use you can use hormones that balance out that excess estrogen. Progesterone is one of them, but also something called pregnenolone, which you can buy at the health food store, and
Yeah.
also melatonin. And we have a great melatonin product, I forgot what it's called, Sleepies. Get on the Sleepies. Do you have problems sleeping? You probably have problems sleeping, I imagine.
You know, I've had a problem with, what do you call it? Anyway, sleeping all my life practically. And then I started practicing TM.
Oh,
It made a tremendous difference.
awesome. TM's
I
awesome.
mean, I feel like I've been catching up on all the sleep that I lost all those years here lately. I sleep a lot.
That's great. That's going to go a long way. That TM will go a long way towards helping you with that excess estrogen and cortisol. That's awesome. So how long have you been doing TM?
Only about maybe 2.5 months.
Okay, good. Stick with it. I highly recommend it. There's also supplements that act like estrogen, and they can help you lower your dose of the prescription estrogen. The Ultimate EFAs have an estrogen-like effect.
I take those, yeah.
Take a lot of them. And then also phytoestrogens, plant estrogens. And you can buy those. Do you know what those are? Those are found in beans, legumes. These are plant estrogens.
Okay.
And by using plant estrogens in the EFAs, you may be able to lower your dose on the HRT.
Okay.
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 If you want a quick surge of energy, there's an amino acid called tyrosine that is a precursor to thyroid hormone that acts like it gives you a little surge of energy, but you got to be careful with that because you don't.
I need it. I need it. I really, the fatigue symptom is pretty bad.
Get yourself some tyrosine.
Okay.
Okay, 100 milligrams a day.
800?
No, 100.
100. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Kitty. Ben, let's do one more. We have one more hand up.
One more hand.
All right. Susie, go ahead and unmute.
Okay,
Susie.
I'm here. Fine. Thank you so much for taking me in. I know this was way over your time,
All right.
but I have a question regarding this new thing. I saw it online and I wanted to know what you thought about it. It's magnesium L-threonate.
Oh, is that out there now? They're advertising.
Yes, they are. And I've heard good things about it.
For
It's
sleeping,
in a
for sleeping or relaxing. What are they telling you?
It's for your brain health. They're giving it to Alzheimer's people, which I work a lot with them. And I was wondering if you've read anything negative about taking it in the body.
Now, magnesium is one of the most important minerals you could ever use. We have it in our OsteoMag, and it's an amazingly, not only is it amazingly valuable as for all the things it does, but also it's a very common deficiency. So supplementing with magnesium is usually a good idea, especially for women, because women lose magnesium in their blood every month. So when magnesium deficiency can be associated with a lot of menstrual issues, migraine headaches, for example, can be associated with magnesium deficiency, cramping can be associated with magnesium deficiency. So magnesium is incredibly valuable. Then they take this molecule, you'll notice they always have a second word after magnesium, like magnesium glycinate, magnesium stearate, magnesium carbonate, magnesium oxalate. So this is a magnesium threonate. And what it does is it's attached to a molecule that is important for brain health called threonine, which is an amino acid, actually. And so you get the benefits of magnesium and the benefits of threonine. And it's the only problem with it is it's probably expensive for two little molecules like that.
It is.
Now, magnesium's everywhere. It should be really cheap, and threonine's everywhere. It should be really cheap. But because they stuck them together, now it's really expensive. So that'd be the only downside of it. I imagine it would be an expensive molecule to make.
It is.
But
It is.
I don't think it's going to change your world, but it's not going to be bad.
Okay. All right. Well, and then do you have one more thing, and that's it. It's the difference between a vitamin C. Thanks to you, I take a lot of it every day.
Yeah.
And I've come across a natural vitamin C, which is called the camu accelerella.
Problem
What
with-
is that? And how does it differ from ascorbic acid?
Yeah, so vitamin C is found in plants. Camu camu is a source. It's a very good source, actually, of vitamin
Okay.
C. So the vitamin C from camu camu, and I have to see it exactly to just be sure, but I'm thinking that the camu camu vitamin C has other things with it. See, vitamin
Yes.
C, yeah, vitamin C is not found in nature as ascorbic acid. It's found in a complex with a whole bunch of other things. That's how nature works. What we do is we take out the chocolate of the chocolate ice cream. You know, we take out the essence and we use it as a supplement. And it turns out that at the level of the cell, which is where all these things are working, once the ascorbic acid gets there, your cell just sees, it doesn't see camu camu, it sees ascorbic acid. It doesn't see all the other things. It's the ascorbic acid that's doing the work. But all those other things can help the ascorbic acid get to where it needs to be.
Oh,
So the ascorbic acid is doing the work, and that's why taking ascorbic acid is going to get you some tremendous benefits. But the best way to get your nutrients always is from foods.
yeah,
The problem is you can't get enough from foods.
right.
Supplementing is important. So with camu camu, if you look at the side of it, you see that you're probably getting 100 milligrams or 200 milligrams of vitamin C. You're not getting a lot of vitamin C. So yeah, you're going to get the other cofactors, but you're not going to get a lot of the vitamin C, right? With ascorbic
Okay.
acid, you're getting pure vitamin C, and it's ridiculous.
Yes.
So they're both good, but I'm always recommending the ascorbic acid. Throw in a little camu camu here and there, or throw in some oranges. Or
Okay. I have been doing that. Good. Okay. That's what I wondered. I was just curious about it because I've always done the ascorbic acid, but I throw some camu camo in now.
That's the meat. That's the meat and potatoes is the ascorbic acid.
I think you're right there. I agree. I've had good results from that.
Good deal. Yeah.
And I wanted to thank you again, Ben, for your truth treatments. They are fabulous, by the way. I've been using them now for 4 years. I'm almost 70 and I love it.
Thank you, Susie. Thank
Yeah.
you. So much.
I really do mean that. Thank you. And thank you, Becca. This was great again.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Susie.
You're welcome.
Okay. So next time.
Oh, all right. Well, Ben, that 1 hour, I just love, it's like, the whole, multiplying of the fish and the bread, and it turns into 2, and lots of great information
Good deal.
that has been shared. I appreciate you, and I know others appreciate you as well.
I appreciate
So
you,
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Becca, and thank you, everybody. And we'll see you all 1 month. Months are going by fast. Oh my God, it's so crazy, right?
I know time goes by so fast, and just heads up, we're going to be talking sugar next time. So if you have any reservations on even natural sugar, raw sugar, cane sugar, and how they affect the body, you do not want to miss our Q&A with Pharmacist Ben and Becca in November. So thank you, everybody. Get back with the person that invited you to this show and thank them. And if you are, again, one of our valued Critical Health newsletter subscribers and you don't have anybody that you've ever spoken to, you can use the contact us or do a reply to your newsletter, and one of our certified holistic health coaches will get back to you. We are just so honored to be able to be associated with Pharmacist Ben and be able to bring him and his knowledge to you, that this is not something you're going to get anywhere and everywhere. So I hope you all took great notes. I thank my co-hosts, Ruth Ellen Sanchez, Dr. Judy Reynolds, Heather Bowen, for their help in making sure that everything is going smoothly in the gallery and also in the chat. Everybody, bye for now.
Hi, Becca. Bye, everybody.